Welcome to Sanctum. You're listening to The 100 Podcast, a show about CW sci-fi series, The 100. I'm Daniel Prime.
Hallowed be his name. And I'm Olga, the One Crew Warrior. Today, we're discussing Season 7, Episode 9, entitled The Flock.
The Flock.
Right. Coming to Fox this fall.
What? Oh, the Fox. Okay.
Yeah, it was a joke. The Flock on Fox.
Oh.
Maybe. Okay.
I thought you said coming to Flocks, and I got very confused. Flock is also a messaging platform that my company uses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So if you had been watching the promos at the end of this episode, you might have noticed that we are not going to be having new episodes of The 100 anytime soon.
Well, in 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. So we just want to let you guys know what our plans are going to be for those next 2 weeks. We're going to release new videos both the next 2 Wednesdays. One is going to be a discussion more about the prequel, some of the interviews that the showrunner did, and some of the sort of spoilers that he gave away of what he wants out of the prequel if it gets picked up. So we want to talk about those potential spoilers and the news around that and have more fun with the prequel. And then the following week, we're going to do our season 5 and 6 rewatch review. And we're going to catch up on our top 10 episodes list, our top 10 villains of the 100 list, all that fun stuff. And as always, we'll have our audio podcast this coming Monday where we'll get into the Flock in more detail. But right now, it's our gut reaction time. What did you think of the Flock?
I think your cringing is pretty, we're on the same page about our thoughts of this episode.
Yeah.
We get called out for being negative a lot. We're going to be negative this time.
There's stuff to like, but generally speaking, not our favorite. And I think it's our little issues that we've had building coming to a head.
Yeah.
It's the continued feeling of we've been so separated from our main characters for so long. Things feel so stretched thin. But let's stick in Sanctum to start off with.
Okay.
What did you think about the Sanctum stuff?
I was surprised with how little of this episode actually took place on Sanctum.
Yeah.
Given that was, a big part, a big cliffhanger of Maury's life is in danger, Nikki and Nelson have taken over. I really did think that it would be like a lot more tense than it was. And for the record, it was tense for a bit. It did have the back and forth of, is Maury going to die? Is Murphy going to die? Maybe Indra's going to die. The fact that, I'm not saying I wanted any of them to die, but the fact that, no one that was that important died was kind of
surprising.
A letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprising. Yeah. That's what I said.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It was a letdown. I think that if the end of this episode happened 3 episodes ago, I would have been happy about it. Because that's the thing. Him, killing all of the flock and then the other people, coming and kneeling in front of him, on paper, that's cool, right? Mm-hmm. Badass villain is creepy and cueing the scenery and blowing out all the candles.
I mean, I gotta say, highlight of this episode was Russell / Shadeheada's, blowing out the candle intimidatingly.
Yeah.
Chewing the scenery times 11,
It was great, but it's so much had been built, we knew Shadehead was going to take control of Sanctum since basically episode 2 or whatever, or episode 3, whatever. And so I remember, I forget exactly what episode it was that I was like, oh man, he's going to fucking fuck up Indra and shit's going to hit the fan. And I've been waiting. And it's the shit hitting the fan still isn't hitting anybody we care about.
Yeah.
And so what is he next episode is going to capture all of them, which is what we just spent this episode on, is all of our people being captured and are any of them going to die? It's all of this, the whole Nelson Nikki plot line feels completely to me like padding put in because we didn't know what else to do. Because yes, okay, technically it led to a situation in which Shadeheada could get in there with the flock and kill them all. But you could have done that in a single episode very easily. Yeah. In a different way. And even though I like some of the character stuff with Murphy and Maury and whatever, I feel like a lot of that is repetitious. It's the same sort of thing again and again. And I don't even know that we got much more from like, even though I like seeing Murphy in these hero-y roles, I feel like we got that enough in episode, what was it, like
the one where he saves the children and sacrifices.
Yeah, but I was even gonna say even before that, when he goes into the radiation chamber and is with
the point is that Murphy's had like several of these big moments of him trying to be heroic but not trying to take the credit of being heroic, or it's like it always goes a little wrong when Murphy is the hero in charge. Like,
you could have easily combined the chess match episode with this episode and did it all at once.
I agree. Frankly, so I guess this was supposed to be like another Murphy episode because that one was Amori's episode. Amori really didn't do anything here and was actually just like there to be saved.
I mean, she was at least like, oh, I'm tough and I don't want John to come in. I'd rather,
But then they kind of repeated the same thing twice. If she goes off script twice and they're still like, hey, you're going to get shot and we're going to push you.
Nikki's such a badly done character. Nelson, who's the one they actually have put effort into, basically did nothing. He wasn't really
here. He was literally here to shove people.
Yeah, I don't understand why either of them is still on the show and why they didn't just have Shithead kill them both this episode. Unless, I mean, maybe they're going to end up teaming up with our people for the greater good.
I think that's where it's heading.
But I don't want to see that. Like, I don't need those characters. The reason those characters exist is because there's not enough of our people on Sanctum to make that a compelling storyline.
Yeah. The thing is that I feel like Murphy's whole, like, Hatch was a good man. He was a better hero than I was. You're throwing away what he did. Like, I feel like that was supposed to be kind of like the big emotional moment here.
And it wasn't bad. Like, the dialogue was good. The delivery was good.
It was just like not enough. We're saying that the stuff that would have made this stand out was smaller in terms of time and like grandeur than the stuff that we've seen already.
And the other thing is that I just like, it's, even though I think it's good dialogue and it's a good moment and he performs it well, it's not giving me anything new about the character of Murphy, and I don't care about the character of Nikki. And they haven't given me a reason to care about the character of Nikki. So one crew split apart, then come back together, and now they're going to follow Shadehead, which we knew all that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did they have to come back together? Why not just have them be split apart and then Shadehead takes over?
That was going to be my major criticism of as soon as I saw Knight, who they went out of their way to name and say, oh, we're saying get a crew. Shadehead was our best commander. He was one of us. I was like, oh shit, he's right there.
Yeah.
Well, guess I know where this is going. And that's not to say that foreshadowing is bad. No. Foreshadowing is good. Yeah. But you're absolutely right that why break apart one crew, bring them back together under Indra, have them listen to Indra for like 1.5 episodes, and then just like completely, negate that.
Throw her under the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. Maybe still half of them will listen to her. But
not all of them kneeled. I think that's worth noting. Only a few of them
But that was still true when they were broken up. She still had some people following her when they were broken up. So, and like, we were talking when we were walking and you're like, why is Maddie just standing there? Like, what is Maddie doing? Yeah, like,
where did she even go? I didn't even know.
Like, it's I don't know.
So Russell, even though he was like, all of you fools, Russell's dead. I'm in his body. I'm controlling him. Yeah. Even though he didn't come out as Shadehead there. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish that we had a moment of Maddie being like, wait a second. I know that crazy maniac. He was in my head for a season.
Yeah.
She's traumatized. I'm not saying I wanted her to like jump into action or anything, but I think it would have been cool to have that tie into her character arc a little bit.
Well, and the other thing is, so we were talking about how there's like a scale issue here where like, even though, again, on paper, cool, he murdered all these people, but it seems like there are so few of them, and they were the thing that was basically causing all of the problems for the first 9 episodes. It was like, oh, if we kill Russell, they're gonna riot and everything's gonna go to hell. And I'm like, seems like one person could handle them pretty easily. I know it's supposed to show that he's badass, but also
not badass, just bad.
Yeah. Well, like, no, a badass and like an
fighting,
evil, powerful. Like Indra's bad. I'm not to say that Indra wanted to. I understand. Indra didn't want to go and slaughter all of them the same way.
She didn't want to be seen as an invader.
Yeah.
Shadehead loves being an invader.
Yeah. I just think that it underlined the fact that like the issues involved up to this point were really thin at best.
Point is, we're frustrated. Yeah.
Meanwhile, and here's the other thing. Sorry, before we go into Bardo.
Meanwhile.
Yes. we end episode 9, which for all intents and purposes is like the mid-season finale, right?
Mhm.
Because, the prequel pilot thing was sort of put over there. This was the 8th one filmed.
Mhm.
This, halfway through the season, we're taking a break now. This is like the mid-season finale, and we still don't have any idea why Sanctum has anything to do with Bardo. I think this episode 100% needed to end setting up how these two storylines are going to intersect. And it didn't. I thought
You're so right. I hadn't even thought of that. And that's not to say we hadn't talked about that, because we totally did.
Yeah.
I just this episode was so odd to me pacing wise. It threw me off so much that I forgot that that's something that would have made sense to have happen.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like him taking control should have been like episode 5, and this should have been when things were starting to intersect with each other. And I guess, and like I was hoping, because I knew there was going to be like some cliffhanger. I'd say this was barely a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I
you're
thought
right.
maybe we'd see like a glimpse of, oh, here's where Bellamy is. And that would have made
that would have been the clue. Or here's where Gaia is. They brought up Gaia in this episode of like, Gaia went with them. She's with the group. And it's like, what? How cool would it have been if we saw Gaia not with the group? And maybe there's a shadowy figure that is Bellamy Blake, but we don't know if it's Bellamy Blake yet in the distance. Like, just something. Like, oh, she comes out of the other side of the anomaly fighting a guy, and someone kills the other guy. And she's like, who's that?
Or even like Hope gets sent back to Skyring and she meets Gaia or something. Something.
Yeah, something that's not a story element that we have literally predicted like instantly.
So then meanwhile, we have Bardo.
Right.
And Bardo, I would argue, was better.
It was.
Because I think that the character stuff was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I didn't feel like I needed this because, we ended last episode and they reveal, oh, our people are, disciples too.
Now. Yeah.
Which wasn't a surprise to me. It was a surprise to Clark because she's not filled in. But for us, we knew they were signing up.
Yeah.
And, I could fill in the blanks.
So people were like, they look brainwashed to me. Oh my God, have they been brainwashed?
Yeah.
I think that this episode simultaneously was an example of like, let's show, not tell.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been okay if they did a little bit of telling to Clark.
Or, I mean, there's multiple ways of show, don't tell. There's a show of, you can show and provide subtext.
Yeah.
Right? And be like, and have things that the audience has to infer.
Mm-hmm.
When you're telling and not showing is being like, yes, I was brainwashed. They did this to me. It was terrible. As opposed to just like, oh, why is Echo acting that way? They must have brainwashed her.
Having her say something like, for all, like, do the thing. And then it's like, oh, well, she bought into it,
Yeah, but the point is, like, they keep taking us backward.
Yeah. And, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
And, like, yes, I'm sure there are people that really enjoy learning more and more about Bardo. I'm just over here being like, we're just getting details, but we're still not getting, like, the meat.
Yeah.
Like, what is actually happening? When is it going to actually start occurring?
Yeah.
Who are they fighting? When are they going to start fighting? Are they never going to fight anyone? Is this all for nothing?
Well, like, in a way, they even say that. They're like, we don't even know what the enemy's going to look like. We have to assume all of these other things of how to fight that. We have to prepare for all contingencies.
Yeah.
My problem is with Bardo, again, like you said, like, they went a little bit too far. I didn't need the classroom scene.
Yeah.
The shepherd, he led us to Etheria and this and that. Like, we know. We saw Cadigan last episode.
We saw the big rally with Anders.
We don't need the kids being indoctrinated and Hope rolling her eyes for the, 50th time.
Yeah.
And
the one thing I'll say about that scene is I actually did like Echo saying, that's still better than what I went through.
They could have put that... Again, I know I'm nitpicking, cut and paste some lines here and there. My point is, I feel like, unfortunately, even within this episode, they retreaded the same territory. And yes, the point was to show, like, them slowly being indoctrinated, but Hope not. The problem is that Hope went in there also at an 11, much like Nikki. Yeah. And there was, no room for her to grow within that.
So there's a few things here. One is that nothing they showed surprised me.
Yeah.
Obviously, we knew they indoctrinated people from childbirth. I wasn't surprised about the genetic engineering. They had already talked about taking away people's attachments and love and all that stuff, which, by the way, I feel like they've continually contradicted with Levitt, Dev, and Orlando. Whatever.
The only ones who, we talked about it, the only ones who seemingly, like, really believe that were Captain Meredith from way back when, who was just like, yeah, kill my people, I don't care, like, it's all for the good of war, blah blah blah. And Anders himself, who, like, Anders understands emotional attachment, he just doesn't feel it himself.
I think there's a debatable line there where it's like, the fact that he believes that he's been able to break them, to me, shows that he doesn't really understand emotion.
And apparently neither does frickin' Hope, because
she
doesn't understand that anyone else can control it either.
No, but here's like, in theory, I like the issue of the rest of them are mature. They've been through a lot more. They know how to play the game. Yeah, she's still all heart. She's just an open nerve, right? Yeah. And her mommy was taken away, and like, I think that, like, that to me is the good part of this episode. The thing is that when, like, they didn't actually show me anything that would make me go, oh yeah, so this is how they actually were brainwashing and convincing our people. Like, I just walk away and I'm like, well, obviously Octavia is Octavia. It's not actually real with her. Also, we even see her with Levitt. Yeah. So that
being like, oh yeah, I'm so good at controlling my emotions. Sexy.
Yeah. and the other thing that's a little frustrating to me is I'm like, every single thing we see could be a simulation. So I can't, like, take anything at face value. Yeah. So I'm like, did she even actually have sex with Levitt?
I think
Probably,
so.
But who knows?
Good point. Well, I feel like they show her being, like, getting the tattoos and being like, you passed, congratulations. Like, I think once you get to that point, that means that wasn't a test of sex. But yeah, even like, Dioza is the master manipulator. Yeah. Like, she herself was sort of a cult leader of, like, leading her armies of freedom fighters. Like, she knows how to manipulate and charm people and, like, play the game. Octavia, she has grown emotionally, and she also has, like, defeated her demons and knows how to be a mastermind. Yep. Frickin' Echo is a master spy, and we're just supposed to... They really want us to believe that she's like, yep, I'm evil again. Yeah. I've lost all of my character development. Yeah. Mwah-ha-ha.
And you know what? It might have somewhat worked if they hadn't also shown Octavia and Dioza murdering Hope too. Because obviously, I'm sorry, there's literally no way in hell that Dioza and Octavia would actually murder Hope. They know that was a simulation. Which means that Echo probably also knew it was a simulation.
Or at the very least, it knows, like, if I'm in this situation, I'm going to play the game. Yep. And because that's literally what they say. Like, you have to just, like, embrace what they're saying and keep everything else secret inside of you. Yeah. Like, they spell it out. So I'm going to, with every time that Echo smirks, I am more and more convinced that she is just being a spy.
Yeah. So first of all, I completely agree with you that she's just being a spy here, right? This is what she was trained for. This is her. And at the same time, Hope buys into it they're hoping the audience buys into it because of the whole ongoing thing of, oh, you just follow orders. You love following orders. Yeah. And she'd been going off the deep end. So it's like, oh, her continuing to go off the deep end. The problem is that even, if she isn't just in love with following orders here, her doing this isn't like her being a new her and finding herself. This is just her reverting back to her training and being good at what she's good at. It's not like something new from her.
Yeah. So it's just now she's loyal to good people instead of evil people.
I mean, it's still, she's not following anyone's particular orders, but she's... my point is that it's not a new thing. We've seen her, like, even in season 5 when she went to, she was like, oh, I'm being banished from Blood Reina, I'm gonna go work with Dioza, and then she was like getting the card thing in, whatever the fuck was going on with that. But, like, my point is, we know she's a spy. It's kind of cool to actually see her be a spy because they talked about it more than they've shown it. But, like,
at the beginning of the season, we have her being confronted by Roan and the real Echo,
Yeah.
and you think like she's really gonna come to terms with like Ash and the fact that she had to pretend all this time.
Yeah.
And then for most of this season, she does go on pretending. They go on and they manipulate Orlando. She like kills him and kills others. And Gabriel feels betrayed by her and feels like she's gone off the deep end and been ruthless. The time that she probably spent convincing Hope that she does have emotions and is fighting for Bellamy, that gets undone by her having to go even deeper into this spy mode and Hope being even more betrayed instead of just theoretically betrayed. It's like, so is she going to end up having this arc? Is she like...
I mean, here's the thing. Honestly, at this point, I think the more interesting and more surprising thing would be if she wasn't being a spy and just went crazy and was evil. Like, to me, like that's the thing. It's like they're trying to trick me and be like, oh, look how bad she's going. And I'm like, well, she obviously isn't. So at this point, if they actually made her go off the deep end, that would be more interesting.
So that's the thing. I guess that's my question is, did she actually buy into it? Is she like, hey, I'm the star student. Pats for me. And then Bellamy somehow comes back or whatever. And she's, is that what they're leading to her being like, I lost sight of you. I'm sorry. And now a big sacrifice moment.
Yeah,
like,
I guess
that
the problem is that
are we playing 3D chess when it's just 2D chess?
Again, if Octavia and Dioza weren't there and this was an Echo and Hope storyline, it would be a whole different world to me. Because when Echo gives the 5-year sentence, like, that is clearly just harsh enough to satisfy Anders. But 5 years, she can survive 5 years.
And won't go
right?
crazy.
She's not going to, she's not, my point being, like, she's not going to have her life ruined by being gone for 5 years. It's the right level of harshness. And from what I read, we see Dioza and we see Octavia, and they're both like, yeah, that's the good call.
Or
like,
they're like, Clark will be here anytime soon.
Yeah.
Gabriel is working on the Cypher team. Like, Gabriel's in that team. Maybe just by saying that she's on Skyrim and she's on penance for 5 years. Yeah, that's like, I guess, a few days on Bardo time. Yeah. Even so, maybe she is still like, we'll figure out a way to help Hope. And I'm just, like you said, pleasing Anders.
Yeah, well, and I think what it is sort of like honestly, it's in all of their best interest to take her off the playing field for a little while they can ingratiate themselves for as well as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because she was the problem who was causing issues for all of them. And with her over there, safe, hopefully, and not too long, they can figure their crap out. I just... I don't know.
While I think that Hope's performance was and all of these performances, frankly, were really good in this episode. Yeah, I just feel like her rage was very, like, while understandable, one note.
Yeah.
And therefore didn't leave too much wiggle room.
Yeah.
And made us almost be on the side of everyone else being like, yeah, get her off the playing field, get her out of here.
Yeah.
Like, she's ruining everyone's plans.
Yeah.
That's not enjoyable. Like, it's an interesting dynamic as a viewer to feel that way.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's hard to want to deal with these emotions when you, at the end of the last Bardo episode, saw Clark, Raven, and team and had them like bring in different emotional gameplay to the table.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me because that's usually the kind of character that really pisses me off, that like is unable to be pragmatic and make logical, smart choices.
Yeah.
Don't feel that way with Hope.
No.
I don't know. The performance is so good.
No,
I don't feel that
to
way,
be clear,
but, yeah.
I like her. It's the problem of like, if this was happening in a episode that had like other dare I say, more forward moving wheels, then I think I would be less harsh on it. And I get, you could argue Bardo is still moving forward. It's still time going by, but it's all like in the past, and it's
it's a whole flashback plot line, basically.
It's not actually giving, like we said at the top of this, it's not really telling us anything super new.
The main thing we get out of this is that where Hope is at the end of the last episode. Why was Hope not there?
That was
now
the
we
question.
Know.
Yeah. Couldn't that have not taken a full episode?
The other thing I want to just quickly throw in is that we also at the beginning got more information about the Giants right? And I am also sort of like, I'm sure some people like the mythology and stuff of that too, but I'm still stuck at the place of like, I don't know what to believe. Like every time they tell me something, I'm like, okay, but is this the actual answer, or is this the crazy person, or like, or is this like the cult answer, or like whatever? Like and even if it is the answer, it's not something that I find interesting because I don't want fucking giant aliens on this show. Like,
we saw like ruined skyscrapers in the distance.
Yeah.
Part of me still like, is this Earth? Like now I'm back on the freaking Bardo is Earth train, and it's a destroyed city. It's Vancouver, and the crystals are Canadians. Like I don't. The crystal giants are all just the Canadians from Prime 5. I don't know. My point is, I agree with you. That wasn't like
exciting to me.
A revelatory moment.
Yeah,
it's cool if it is for you.
Yeah. And the thing is, to me, they could have just done that with Clark. They could have just brought Clark
that would
up
have
and showed
been
it.
great.
Yeah.
I would have loved a little elevator field trip with Clark and the Crystal Giants.
At the beginning of next episode, we didn't need it here.
With Bill.
We could have had our people now as disciples explaining it to Clark, which I think would have been a much more interesting dynamic.
What happened to you?
Yeah.
Cue flashback.
Not to say that we won't get any of that, but I'm just saying that like that scene coming from our people as though it's like the facts, I think would have been way more interesting.
It would have been a little bit of tell, but still some show. We didn't necessarily need this one. Yeah. Although them like fist bumping after sparring was like really cute.
And on that positive note,
we found some positives. Who made it through this half-hour episode of us shitting on
We'll see how much of this half hour is actually in there to make it a half hour. But guys, thank you so much for watching. And please leave your comments down below. We'll talk much more about this on the audio podcast coming up.
Well, keep finding positives, maybe.
We'll see. We'll love to hear your opinions. May we meet again.
May we meet again.